I need to have all this stuff on my website and choose the photo that I have and all these things. And that's great and all. But before they ever come to your website, before they ever go to your landing page, they're going to Google you. Am I right or am I right? I have things that I like to talk about, but I want to know, what do you guys want to hear? Because this time is for you. The idea of the personal brand accelerator is, what is working best for you and how do we amplify that? How do we get more out of the thing that you want? I thought today would be a good day to talk about how to rank on your name. Because if you're a coach, you're selling consulting, especially high ticket things like Mr. Dan Euland does, they're going to Google your name, right? How often are they going to Google your name before they go to your website? Like, you might think, yeah, I need to tune my social media. I need to have all this stuff on my website and choose the photo that I have and all these things. And that's great and all. But before they ever come to your website, before they ever go to your landing page, they're going to Google you. Am I right or am I right? Yeah. Okay. So let me know in the comments if you believe today is a good day to talk about how to rank on your name. Oh, it says Mark Lack. It says I'm Mark Lack, the host. How do I change my name to Dennis? I'm not Mark Lack. I would love to be Mark Lack today if I could. Rename. Okay, I'm going to rename this. You know, I'm not. This is Dennis Yu, not Mark Lack. Okay. And before we get started, does anyone have any burning questions or burning issues that we need to take care of? If you are, you can put it into the chat. I'm here for you. It's a great day, Mr. Dan. Yes, it is. So who's Chow DZ? What's the priority, branding your business or yourself? Yourself first. Always build your brand first. People buy from other people. All right. And just to prove that we practice what we preach, I did a Google search. And here I said, how do you rank on your name? And you'll see that there's a LinkedIn post, there's a blog post. LinkedIn's got a DR98, super high power domain rating. My blog's got a 60, which is also super high. And then there's other things too, you know, Twitter, YouTube. So when you create content on social, it naturally will rank high because they're huge networks. Facebook's got a DR100, IMDb, Adweek, DR91, right? But if you look at just the first 4 search results that pop up, you'll see that they all answer this question of how do you rank on your name? And I want, before we go into the actual details of how do you rank on your name, I want you to consider this. People consume information in different ways. Some people like to watch videos. Some people like to see short little tweets. Some people want to meet with you. Some people, there's all these different ways that people like to consume content. So whatever expertise you have, can we agree that we need to repurpose our expertise into every channel? That we are not, it's not that we like YouTube better or Facebook better or Twitter or the blog or whatever better. Can we agree? If we agree, can you put repurpose? Can you type repurpose into the chat? And later I'm going to tell you why this is so important. It's not just because you want to be everywhere. It's actually going to be very key. And if you're not repurposing, then consider, why are you not doing it? Because you didn't know how, because you didn't know you're supposed to do it, because you don't have someone else to do it, because you're always too busy, because you think that content needs to be made differently for each channel, because that's a lie somebody told you, or, you know, whatever, you just didn't know. So I'm going to show you an example. So this is a blog post, how to rank on your name. And here's the different steps. Sort of an introduction. I show proof that, yeah, I rank on my name. So when you type Dennis Yu, you get a full knowledge panel. And that knowledge panel is supported by highlights from other places. So if I literally do another search here, and by the way, when you search for yourself, you're going to get a different result than other people usually, because Google's prioritizing your results for what you do, right? So your results will probably be better than someone who doesn't know you from another place. So you can see here, I did a search on Dennis Yu, and do you see this here? PAA, people also ask. So what does the dollar a day strategy do? Who is the CEO of Blitzmetrics, right? And here is an SEO tool that's giving me some related feedback, like you already know, like what are the most common questions? When people type in Dan Ulan, they'll also say, what is elite student coach, or, where does Dan Ulan live, or what's his background? And you'll see here, Content Factory, courses, Twitter, right? And here's a bio. You guys know where this is part of the knowledge panel. See all this? Profiles. I was just with Larry Kim half an hour ago. Here's other people that are also in digital marketing, Instagram, Facebook, all these sorts of things, right? Related searches, right? Do you know, real question, what drives what shows up here? And what shows up here? I'm 48. Here's the book I have. It shows me as a writer, which is author. What drives what shows up here in my knowledge panel? So the knowledge panel is this upside down L, these components. You can go ahead and unmute or just say it. What do you think drives what shows up here? Why is this Twitter? Why are these latest tweets showing up here? Why is my Instagram here ahead of my Facebook? What is it that drives what shows up?
SEO?
Oh, of course it's SEO. We're on Google, but what is it that's driving that? How does
SEO?
Google decide? What's that?
What is SEO?
SEO is search engine optimization.
Okay.
It's
So
getting
my
what we
question is,
want when people Google us, right? And when it's showing up on things that we want to rank for, right?
So it's your bio, it's the consistency across your bios in all your different platforms.
Yes, that's one key component. Because if you have a different message, a different bio, a different company, you're not using the keywords that you want, then Google can only go off of what it has, right? What else? So when you look at these,
how does that work if we have different products and we have sort of different, like I'm a musician and my business is sort of slightly different, obviously I'm not selling music in my business, so it's slightly different. And then I have a summit, so there's different products which have different tags and keywords in the bio.
Yeah. So that's part of your focus. So of course, we are all complex human beings with lots of skills, lots of experiences, lots of products, lots of things that we've done, but we've got to narrow it down to one main thing. And that's things like what you show in your LinkedIn headline. So you see here, it pulled my LinkedIn, CEO Blitzmetrics, digital marketing company, training young adults, implementation, consulting, right? Analytics, all this stuff. It has a book. Look here. Do you see the about? It's pulling from Google Books. So where's this Google Books coming from? It's coming from the fact that Google's pulling, you can see the URL, it's pulling from the bio that we have in the actual book. So it's pulling from DennisU.com and the bio that I have here, right? And I intentionally wanted to be seen as more of a writer than, if you Googled my name 2 months ago, it would have said internet personality. And I thought, I have a full knowledge panel. There's all this kind of stuff here, but I don't want to be known as an internet personality because I'm not trying to be an influencer. But because I didn't set up all my entities correctly, like the other lady said, Google's like, well, this guy's got a lot of followers and he's clearly talking about social media. So he's an internet personality. Like, I don't want to be an influencer. I want to be known as an educator, as an entrepreneur, as a trainer. So because I actually say in my bio that I'm an author and I cite the books that I've written and I cite the articles and whatnot that I've created, then all of these point to the same, they consistently reinforce the idea that I'm a writer, right? A speaker, author, speaker, coach, and anyone who's a consultant. You could say consultant, you could say coach or trainer, but that's not a category here for the subheading. So I think most of us should be author or writer, maybe entrepreneur here. Why do you think? And this is, I want you guys to go ahead and yell out why you think. There's no right or wrong answer. Why do you think being a writer or author is the easiest and most powerful way to generate a knowledge panel, which is what we're looking at here? I'm asking questions. I'm going to test your comprehension too. I also want to see, am I losing you guys?
Credibility.
Credibility? Okay.
Well, credibility, but you also control what it says.
I mean, as a writer, you write what you want it to say.
It's evasive.
It's a what? Basis?
Evasive. It's evasive. It's not
Evasive, like we're
broad.
hiding something, we're ducking something, or what?
No,
What are we evading?
evasive as far as it's broad. So it's not pinpointed. So it's a broad because you can be writing between sex novels or comics. What kind of writing? It doesn't say what it's pinpointing to. So it's
Right.
evasive.
It's okay, super broad, it can mean anything because you could write about whatever. So I guess we're all writers then, technically, right?
Sorry,
Well,
Dennis, what
here's-
I meant to say was authority.
Yeah, authority is what it is. So let me tell you a key insight about how Google works, coming from a search engine engineer who's done this for 25 years, 30 years almost. A knowledge panel, and these cards, which are what you see here in the light blue, is driven by facts that can be verified by multiple high authority sources. So I could say that I'm the world's #1 SEO expert, but Google can't verify that factually across multiple authoritative sources. But it can validate that I am an author because it can clearly see that I have books. It can clearly see where I've written things. It can clearly see, things that are going on here, right? So to trigger a knowledge panel, because I think only a few of us here have a knowledge panel, right? I think Mark Lack only has a partial knowledge panel. We all agree that having a knowledge panel is a good thing, right? So here, Mark Lack has a knowledge panel here. You see this? Here, this is a stub of a knowledge panel. And here in the other part of his knowledge panel, there are his profiles. And then there's his LinkedIn. And from his LinkedIn, they pulled his about. Google pulled his about. Mark Lack is known as the go-to expert on personal branding and has A-list client, all this, right? So that's, and then there's all the videos and these other things here, right? But because there's not enough information about Mark Lack, it doesn't trigger all the cards. You see all these cards, these blue things? We want all these cards to trigger, and we want all this other stuff here to be able to trigger as well. And I recommend all of us have author or writer, which is the same thing, show up, because if you look at what else, like name any famous person, like an athlete or celebrity, or name Dan Ulan, name any person who's well-known. Anybody, politician, whatever, name them.
Elton John.
Elton John. So you can see when I did Elton John and I have not yet pressed enter, you see the type ahead search results, Elton John, real name, news, age, tour, net worth, movie, right? And then here you see the little thumbnail here, Elton John, British singer. This is showing that he is already in the knowledge graph. Do you see the difference? Do you see the ones with the little magnifying glass here on the left side? And then you see the one that's got this E. Do you see the difference there? Dan, what's the difference between these two? I've typed in Elton John. I've not yet pressed enter, but I see an entity pop up and then I see these other searches. What's the difference between the two and why is there a difference?
I'm going to go on a limb because I'm not really sure. Those are the magnifying glasses are common searches, and the E is that's his brand and logo.
Yeah, that's an actual entity. So the ones that show an icon versus the magnifying glass is an entity. So an entity is an object, it's a noun. So it's a person, place, it's a company, it's a book, it's a song, it's a restaurant, it's a thing, right? And there's enough evidence tied to that particular object, enough citations, which is what they're called, that validate that this is Elton John as a British singer, that when I click on it, I see a beautiful pink knowledge panel pop up, right? So this is something that's hidden in plain sight. Like you guys have used Google all day long and you probably think, oh, I'm an expert in Google because, we've been using Google for years for maps and mail and all that kind of stuff. But I bet you didn't know that Google's whole search infrastructure is based on a knowledge graph, which is this big database of all these objects. So this object, Elton John, is a British singer, and connected to Elton John, look, is factual information. his Wikipedia, when he was born, his spouse, siblings, movies that he's in, Instagram, YouTube, right? Do you see how here's news about top stories about him? Apparently, he looks like he must have just fallen. I guess he's old now, 76. So this stuff happens when you get older, right? So what Google has done is they've taken this information and look, overview songs, movies, albums, videos, listen. It's taken all the factually verified information from high authority sources. You can imagine where Elton John, you can find Elton John, and it's tied it together into a comprehensive answer. All these cards are driven algorithmically. I want you guys to understand this. If we need to go over it multiple times, that's fine. Like I needed to this had to be explained to me like 100 times before finally I'm like, oh, I get it now. So if Dennis Yu needs to be beaten on the head 100 times to understand this, like that's totally okay if you need to hear it a couple times. But I want you to understand how Google works. These are all factually verified. He is a British singer, right? I am an author. And yes, he's 76 and he has a spouse. And yes, there's news that shows that he's hospitalized from falling. And here's other factual information. So Google's a big library card catalog for those of us that are over 40. Remember, there used to be this card catalog thing, right? So because I see all this information that's factual about Elton John, not like I think he's the best musician or this one song is the most moving or whatnot, you know, Tiny Dancer, nothing like that. The subcategory on Elton John as British singer makes the most sense because of all the verifiable labels you can provide, that's the one. Now, unless you actually want to be known as a musician or as an athlete or football player, you know, then I would highly recommend that you categorize as an author because that is factually verifiable. And having a book, and you can see here, Google, this book is one that is probably the fastest way to verification and notability because it encapsulates all your knowledge. It's something that's available for purchase that you can distribute on multiple channels. That's why Dan Ulan is going to have a book soon too, right? Now, a lot of people that are now, in the last 6 months, there are a lot of people that have been selling knowledge panels, claiming that they have an inside connection at Google and they can get you a knowledge panel if you pay them $10,000 or something like that. That's not true. It's a lie, right? Because this is all Google said this, when you Google things, it's all algorithmically driven. So here's this book by me and Perry Marshall, and it shows the entities of me and Perry. You see here? These are the related entities. The main entity is this book, just like I'm an entity. And then it shows Perry Marshall, or it shows his wife. So now we're on Perry Marshall's thing, and he's under consultant. Why? Because he's doing more coaching programs, and we can verify that he's a consultant, right? 54 years old, education, all these facts. Look at all these facts about him. Now, his about is pulled from his Wikipedia. Mark Lax is pulled from his LinkedIn. Mine is pulled from my Google Books. See? And here's all these other books. What's that?
How do you find the actual site? What is the site that you're going to?
What do you mean, what site am I going to?
Well, what is that Google search? What's the one how do I get there?
Oh, I search Perry Marshall.
Oh, so you go to Google and you just put the name in.
Yeah. So what we're talking about today is how do we rank on our name?
Right.
So when someone goes to Google and they type in, oops, Zoom is weird. When they type in Dan Ulan, what pops up? Well, in the type ahead, you can see other things that are kind of related to this, but these are my own searches. Add a space. There's no, you see there's no entities that's showing up, right? Except this URL and other places I've already been. Like here's an email, right? You can see this is an email. It's got a Gmail icon. It shows I have 14 unread messages, right? So no entity showing up. So it shows that it doesn't mean that Dan Ulan doesn't have an entity in the knowledge graph. It doesn't mean that they don't know who Dan Ulan is. It just means that when we search on Dan Ulan, it's not definitive enough that for sure, like this is Dan Ulan, right? So I do a search now. So I press enter and there's a lead student coach. So this is Dan Ulan. But this website has a DR0, domain rating trust basically of 0. There's no one linking to it. Well, there's 7 links. And so that's why when we get a book and Dan's on my podcast or Will Troop's podcast, or we link to it, that increases the links that are coming in, which increases the trust of his site. So the good news is Dan Ulan is not a competitive search. So he's ranking number 1, is LinkedIn number 2. And it's not like all these other people the same name. This is the one I was mentioning before, right? The magician podcast thing, Instagram. Now notice Podbean, Instagram, these other places, they have a high domain rating. These are huge networks, right? Pinterest, huge domain rating. Alignable social network, right? YouTube, 99, right? Dan Ulan, 4 subscribers. I'm one of them. But there's nothing here that is high enough authority to show that Dan Ulan is a coach and helps high net worth parents, if their kids want to get into schools, and it doesn't show that. So no knowledge panels over here. You see that? It doesn't mean Dan Ulan is a bad coach. This not showing up here with the knowledge panel doesn't mean you suck at what you do. It means you have not assembled the credible evidence that is also placed on high authority sources that link back to Elite Student Coach and DanUlan.com. So that's why there's no entity that shows up in the typehead search, and that's why there's no knowledge panel that shows up for a search on Dan Ulan. Do you guys follow that?
So I put my name in there.
Okay.
Is it possible to put my name in there and then you can show me what you're talking
Is
about?
that Carol Sue Engelman?
It is.
Okay. Karen Sue, that's 3 separate words?
3 separate words.
Okay.
I've a question because while you've been talking, I just searched myself and I didn't come up at all. But there's 10 pages of other Jen Wilsons, and it wasn't until I put Jen Wilson and my company name in that I came up at all, and that's on my own.
Yeah.
And I'm not finding these things when I look at it. I'm just finding I'm not finding that. So I'm going to the wrong place.
Okay. So we'll go into that in a minute, where there's other people that have the same name, and how do we find the knowledge panel or the knowledge graph ID and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I imagine this is another Carol Engelman, or you're going by Carol Sue Engelman, right?
Right. That's not my picture.
These
But
are
wait,
other
let me see.
people.
Yeah, but
This-
all the rest looks like me.
These are all you?
No, those people, none of those people are me.
Okay. And this may or may not
That's
be you.
me.
That's you? This you?
That's me.
This one?
That's,
Okay.
yes.
Okay,
By-
so
yes.
I'm going to say something obvious that we all know, but we aren't doing.
Okay.
We as coaches, consultants, whatever you want to call it, experts, authors, speakers,
Mhm.
if our expertise is not available in multiple formats and repurposed to live on multiple sources, Google does not have that overwhelming signal that is corroborated in this loop. Like all these things need to corroborate, like voting, that this is Carol Sue Engelman and this is what she does. Okay. And Michael, yes, this is being recorded, and this
Thank
is
you,
being posted
because I
in the
want a copy
Academy.
of that recording.
Okay, good. And just so you guys know, because I wanted to show that we practice what we preach, I mentioned that this is already there's nothing I've said that I have not said zillions of times, okay? But it's good because I even, the masters, how do you tell when someone's a master? They do the fundamentals over and over again. So this is what you do, right? Do a Google search on your name, see if there's a knowledge panel, make sure you have these other components in place, buy your name, right? I would buy carolsueengelman.com, point everything in there, because we need to establish that there's the hub of this wheel. So the hub of Dan Ulan could be Elite Student Coach, but I really think it should be DanUlan.com, because one's the company and the other one's the person. And yes, he's a one-person solopreneur, but understand that those are different entities. You are not your company. You might be the face of the company might have your name in it, but you understand that a business versus a person versus a book, those are all separate objects. So if you don't keep those objects separate, you're not going to be able to trigger a knowledge panel. Do you see how easy that is? People get this wrong all the time. It's because they don't understand, like every noun is a separate entity, right? And here is literally the same. I'm repeating the checklist, right? Get your name as a domain. because you might have a company name and it might be johnsmithconsulting.com, but it needs to be John Smith and you need to have John Smith Consulting. See if you can trigger the knowledge panel through a search. So if we're doing, who was it that we to refine the search? Put your name into the chat and put the search into the chat so I can see this.
Let me see what I came up with. See, when I went in there, all I came up with was, it doesn't come up with all those graphs and numbers that you have. It just lists my name as a real estate agent, as a naturopath, as on Facebook. But
because
so
you don't
you're
have
in a
this.
different- what do I have to click on to get to where you are?
You don't have the signals here. You don't have a knowledge panel yet. So when we type in Carol Sue, this is what I was showing. There's Carol Sue Engelman. So if I go to instant domain search, which is one of the only ones that doesn't buy the domain when you are looking, that's a dirty little. So you need to buy that name on an exact match. You need to buy your name before someone else buys your name.
I will do
On the
that.
.com. You don't have to buy all the variations,
I
right?
will do that. I will
So
do that.
why am I mentioning that you need to buy your name? Because that's the first thing I mentioned here in this little article on the steps to take, right? Why should you buy your name?
Mhm. Oh,
Because you need the hub. What's the hub of your personal brand, right? You're in Mark Black's group for the Personal Brand Accelerator because you want to grow through your personal brand, right? You want to grow because people know, like, and trust you. You want to be seen as an expert. Great. Maybe you have a book, you have a podcast, you have all this kind of stuff. And think of this as like you have a bunch of, objects to put on your bookshelf, but there's no bookshelf. You have a lot of books, but no bookshelf. What's the structure that ties it together? You need the personal brand website to tie it all together. So why do I have Blitzmetrics as a company, but then I have Dennis Yu as a website, right? For my personal brand. That's the thing that people miss. So people are like, why do I need a second website? I have an about me on my company page, right? So look, if I go to Blitzmetrics, sorry if I'm like lecturing you guys, but these are such common problems. I see people make this mistake over and over and over again. Yeah, thank you, Dan. So here,
I love it.
okay, so this is a company, right? So you have your company, there's like what you do, there's, some stuff about you, it's a bio, right? So I could do a search for, the best way to validate is literally to use Google to see like Blitzmetrics, Dennis Yu, about, okay? And
Oh,
let me explain this one thing and you ask your question. So here,
I'm here,
the-
but it's real spotty. You're real spotty.
you can come in.
okay, so you can see this is pulling from my Crunchbase, but I have control over my Crunchbase. I have control over my Facebook, my LinkedIn, and all that, so I can make sure my descriptions are consistent. And you can see like there's other, like here's the about. So on my company page, there's an about. There's about the Content Factory process we teach, which is what Will is implementing for Dan Euland. There's the about, which shows all these things about me and whatnot, but it's not the same as the about when you search on my name. Because for me as a person and for you as a person, see, look, so I typed in Dennis Yu, I have not pressed enter. Look at what's already showing. Dollar Day Strategy, Content Factory. Why does it show Dollar Day and Content Factory and Blitzmetrics, Dan? Why does it show this author? You see this thing on the right side? Why does it show all that?
Because you have authority in those spaces.
Yeah, because it's corroborated by many.
Right.
There's my expertise, whatever, is shared on many high authority sites that basically repeat the same thing about I've taught Dollar Day over and over and over again, and it's there. And so this other panel here shows up, right?
It does not, however, say trampoline basketball boss.
I love trampoline basketball, but it's
I know. Well,
I'm not. Unfortunately, I'm not a world class. Like, there's no to go back to the core principles that we're talking about. Are there high authority third-party sources that validate that I'm a pro at trampoline basketball? No,
they're all the kids on the court. Yeah,
but can it be found by Google?
not yet.
I mean, I know Dan Euland says that Dennis Yu is great at trampoline, and I really appreciate that. But unfortunately, there's nothing to validate that because it's not factual, right? And I think Skyzone said something they have 3 million people that go to Sky Zone. I had no idea like that many kids are going to Sky Zone. So that's a lot of people going. And who's to say that I'm any better than those 3 million other people that go there? I'm not. I'm just like another one, right? I think I'm better, but you know, whatever. So, but this is validated. Like these other pieces are easily validated. Okay. And these social profiles all corroborate. So first step, practical, all you guys write this down, take this action, own your domain name and make sure you claim all of your socials, whether or not you were actually on, you know, YouTube or TikTok or like, I'm not even on these other platforms, but I need to claim them. Why am I? For sake of comprehension, Dan, why is it important to claim your domain name and all these other social profiles, even if you don't have time to spend on these?
You know, somebody else is going to, and well, if you don't, somebody else is going to, and you want to be able to have that opportunity to go in and leverage them later on. I mean,
because I need as many high authority sources
Yes.
corroborating the facts that I want Google to show about me. If Google's even sort of unsure, or if there's only 1 or 2 places that show this particular statement about me, it's not good enough. It has to be like overwhelming. All of these things pointing in, saying that Dennis Yu is an author, saying that Dennis Yu runs ads, saying the $1 strategy, saying the phrase that we have for what we do, right? It needs to be like massively corroborated. And having it on the social networks is one of the easiest ones. Because look, when you do a search on Dennis, you have all my latest tweets, you have images, you have all this, you have these YouTubes. Guess who owns YouTube? Google. So, wow, what a surprise that all these YouTubes are showing up here, right?
but I mean, but Dennis, can I jump in and say something?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I started working with Will under you 2 months ago. So
Mhm.
even though when you Google my website, it has 0 there, there's just an S ton of stuff that's been happening over the course of this last two months. I got a note on my social, Dennis Hughes, saying, I just subscribed to Dan Yuan's YouTube channel. I didn't even know I had a YouTube channel until I found out that you subscribed to it. So this is the
Isn't that funny?
no, but because that's how fast it's working. And this isn't an ad for Dennis Yu or Will, but the point is that this is all starting to like so much movement is starting to happen, right? Just based on the videos that we shot in Vegas and here in LA, right? All this stuff is being repurposed.
Yeah, so
it's
just to
that
give
kind of-
context to everyone else. Now you see these 4 stages. Now Dan knows this, but let's just say this for the sake of everybody else. You see these 4 stages in the Content Factory. So Mr. Dan here has been sitting in this first stage, this purple one. So he's producing content. So he's doing what he normally does. He's on Zoom calls, coaching his students. He's interviewing. He's doing what he does as part of his business, right? You would be doing this anyway. This is not like extra work. But when there is somebody else, when there's a VA, when there's, you know, a Will Troop or whatever, it goes into the second stage of processing, which means chopping it up in different places, editing. You know, I don't like to call it video editing because it's not video editing. It's repurposing. So it can live, because, you know, the formats on YouTube and Twitter, and like, they're all, you know, some are longer, shorter, taller, smaller, some are text, some are articles, some are, you know, there's different ways of processing. You transcribe the video, right? There's processing the content. I call it processing, not editing. Editing applies some level of like changing the content around. I'm just talking about processing, right? It's neutral, right? And it's processed so it can then be published to all these other channels. So only now is Dan starting to get momentum, and 2 months is actually pretty normal for us to start to finally, because, you know, this like the 9 women in 1 month can't make a baby. Like, it just takes a certain amount of time to make a baby. Okay. So, and some people are like, I'm going to throw 9 people at it and I'll have a baby in 1 month. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like, the stuff has to go through this kind of gestation process, right? Because as we're processing the content, we'll have some feedback along the way and we make adjustments, and this is totally normal, this kind of iteration. And then it starts to live on YouTube. It lives on his website. And some of these entities didn't exist. So all you guys out there, if you have not claimed your YouTube channel, go claim it, even if it has no subscribers and no videos and no nothing. Just claim all of your property, okay? Costs you nothing. Why wouldn't you do it? Claim all of it. Because why? Once it's been processed, we can then take that same piece of content, that one video, chop it up into lots of different pieces, and now it can live on all the channels. We don't have to make a separate YouTube and a separate TikTok and a separate Facebook. We can make the content once, gets processed, and now we got dozens of assets. You follow me? So Dan doesn't have to mess around in stages 2, 3, and 4. Stage 4 is $1 a day where we're boosting, right? But guess what? If the property doesn't exist, then you can't boost against it. So if we
Roger,
don't have a
can you
YouTube
see it?
channel, we can't run $1 a day on YouTube. If we don't have a book,
Randy? Can you
sorry,
see it?
whoever's chatting needs
I
to
can't see
mute
it now.
themselves.
No, that's because I
I think it's Sue. Sorry. Or Carol Sue. Yeah, if you want to talk, feel free to interrupt me. Totally cool, but just for the sake of everybody else.
Yeah, I was trying to tell you to.
Sorry, just if you could, Carol, just mute. Yeah, just mute yourself. Otherwise, it's kind of a distraction, and I lose my train of
I
thought.
didn't realize I wasn't muted. I'm sorry. But I still never got my question answered because what did you put in there to get the rate? I just put in, at first I put, how do I rate? And I put my name. I just got the listing. I just got a picture of myself that showed up, but
Okay.
you're doing something different that I can't figure out.
I'm just searching on people's names, right? All of us here, we can search. The whole point is when you search your name and when a prospect or potential client searches your name, we would like to have a knowledge panel show up, right? That's a good thing to show up. And today we're talking about what you need to do step by step to be seen by Google to influence the big database that's called Google, because we need to understand how this database works
I know that, but I'm not getting
so
it.
that the content we have shows up the right way, right? And I don't want to distract everyone else, Carol, but I think, Carol, if you just listen carefully to what we're talking about, you're going to find this makes a lot of sense.
Dennis, may I
And-
jump in and offer? I think I understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
There are numbers that are indicating the website's traction that are under the different people.
Yes.
Some of us are not seeing any of those numbers underneath the.
Oh yeah,
intro.
I have a lot of other tools, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
That I have lots of tools. You know, when you go to the mechanic to work on your car, he's got lots of tools that you don't know about and you probably don't want to mess with. But if you want to be a mechanic, happy to talk about that. But right now I want to explain what is going on in the car. How does a car work? And if you really want to get into like changing the transmission, then we'll talk about that. But I don't want to talk about that today unless someone's super advanced, then we can go there. But I've Googled most of the folks here and I have a pretty good idea. I'm just trying to give you guys the most powerful, easiest thing you should do, right? Otherwise, we can go in thousands of directions that will just be a wild goose chase. I'm trying to give you like the pure distilled, this is exactly what you need, okay? What you need to understand, what you need to do, and why you need to do it, okay? So the last stage of these 4 stages is boosting. Boosting is only possible when you exist on that property. So if you don't have that book, if you don't have the YouTube, if you don't have the Twitter, you can't boost against it, right? So you see how these 4 stages work together because Dan has been producing content. And so good clients like him follow directions. So he does these things that we've specified as part of the program. So that way Will and his VAs are able to run stages 2, 3, and 4. So do these stages make sense? These 4 stages, do you guys all agree this makes sense? In order to send an overwhelming comprehensive signal to Google from multiple sources that are high authority, showcasing our expertise and our relationships, this is the way to do it. You as the figurehead are with your clients, are sharing your knowledge at industry events. You produce a book. There's all these different ways of sharing your knowledge and your expertise and your relationships. So it then can be processed to live on multiple places and then be boosted. When we boost it, it drives signal traffic because Google can see how much traffic is coming to those videos, how long people are staying on the site because of things like Google Analytics, because of all these other things, right? And then Google will see when people type in Dan Ulan that they're having a great experience on an elite student coach or whatnot, right? And then they'll see that there's information about Dan Ulan or whatnot, and that will start to trigger knowledge panel, just like Elton John. How many people are typing in Elton John all the time, right? And so when we say Elton John, spouse, age, parents, movies, is he alive? Here's songs. See, Rocket Man, see? And you see here, you see this people also search for? I've not even pressed enter on the search results. Saying people are also looking for Bernie Taupin and Rocket Man and other things, right? So why is Google doing this? Because these are the most, these are the related entities. When people start exploring Elton John, Google is trying to be a step ahead to be super helpful because they know people, you think of what is Elton John's most popular song? Probably Rocket Man, right? So what we're really doing, you ever play that game Family Feud? You ever see that TV show Family Feud? Survey says, like, what are the top 10 flavors of ice cream? Or what are the top 10 things that your spouse gets mad at you about, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're playing Family Feud and seeing like, okay, when people type in Dan Euland or Mark Lack, what is it that what do we want to be known for? And can we influence the algorithm? Meaning, can we get people? So if I want to talk about personal brand accelerator and shorten the gap, then I need to have a lot of people talking about shorten the gap. The more people I have saying shorten the gap and personal brand accelerator, the more Google's going to notice this. So this last stage of the content factory, which is boosting, is getting enough traffic against this content that's been repurposed and published in multiple places. When that exists, then if I do a search on, it doesn't exist yet because he hasn't done it, but personal brand accelerator. This is someone else's personal brand accelerator. Is this him? I don't think it is. This is somebody else, right? Pretty common sort of thing, but they have no power, DR6. They don't have any real links coming in and they don't rank on many keywords, right? But if I do personal brand accelerator, or if I do, how about this? Shorten the gap, because Mark's had that longer. Shorten the gap, Mark Lack. Okay. Shorten the gap in Spanish, synonym. All right. Shorten the gap, Mark Lack. Now he's got the #1 result, shorten the gap, because he's got the URL shorten the gap. And this site has a DR36, which is strong from these 567 links, and he ranks on these 87 keywords. There's his book, Shorten the Gap. There's him talking about Shorten the Gap. When he's on other people's podcasts, he's talking about best-selling author of Shorten the Gap. When people interview you on your podcast, on their podcast, they always mention, you know, Mark Lack, the author of Shorten the Gap. So you can see Shorten the Gap, Shorten the Gap, Shorten the Gap, images, Shorten the Gap. He's got the URL, Shorten the Gap. So all of these are corroborating as far as Google can see that this is Shorten the Gap. And why is this weird? Is this Japanese, or I think his site's been infected? What is this?
That's Japanese. That's Japanese.
And it's selling purses and stuff.
Let me see. You want to go back?
I think he's been infected. I think he's got malware here.
That looks like a. I'm reading the kanji and they cut the katakana on it. It looks like it. That's a hack.
Yeah, he's been hacked. Yeah, this happens all the time. It's not, don't freak out. I see this all the time. Usually it's when a plugin on WordPress hasn't been updated. And then these guys basically inject in and to try to sell like penis pills and things like that.
So can we use our company name? My personal name is 3.5grand.com. I mean, it's quite good that no one else has bought it really, because there's 10 pages of other Jen Wilsons above me. But this is actually optimistic, because if I put Jen Wilson Vocal Nectar in, then my name comes up. Because
there's
that's
a lot of Jen Wilsons, and
yeah, there's loads. I can't even find myself in 10 pages. But
so that's a little tougher. Let's see how competitive first Jen Wilson is, and then we'll get more specific. Some people do a middle initial. Some people say Jennifer Wilson. Some people will. Okay, these are. Is this you?
No.
Any of these you?
No.
None of these are you. Okay.
No. So you're seeing the same as me.
So it looks like there's a lot of Jen Wilsons, but these Jen Wilsons aren't that competitive. Look, these page level, it's not very competitive.
Mm-hmm.
So we could win on Jen Wilson.
So I have to pay the 3.5 grand to get .com to win.
No, you could do jenwilson.net or jenwilson.org.
I've got jenwilson.me actually.
.me, that's great too. Yeah.
Okay.
You don't need to have the .com. You just ideally you want to have your name .something.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I've got that, and actually have started building a site just to put everything else together.
Good.
For
the longest time, I had dennis-u.com, and it was only until 6 months ago. There's a guy who squatted on my name for years, and he wanted some ridiculous amount of money. But eventually I said, you know what, dude, no one else is going to, I mean, there's a Dennis Yu film director and there's a couple other ones, but no one else is going to buy this name from you. So you might as well just give it to me for a couple grand. And so I got it from him.
Nice.
So I now actually own it. But the point is, it never hurt me to be dennis-u.com. You would think it would,
Mm.
but no one types it in. It's all based on what's linking to it. So
Yeah.
that Jen Wilson vocal, let's see,
Nectar.
vocal nectar. Okay. So you
Yeah.
search, you show up here, you have a domain rating of 4. You're in the 43rd millionth. There's 43 million websites ahead of you,
Wow.
which is like all of them basically. I mean, technically there's a billion websites, but most of them don't count. Because you have, these are the links you have, and these are the keywords that you rank on. This is a special tool that I'm using. It costs a lot of money. So you do rank on Jen Wilson in position 10.
Oh, okay.
Ultimate Vocal Summit.
No, that's not.
And
Oh,
you have two
Oh,
search
okay.
features. So you search, okay, you rank, and look, do you see this here? SF, these search features, image
Mhm.
pack and Tweetbox. So you don't rank in the regular search results on Jen Wilson. When people type in Ultimate Vocal Summit, you show up in video and image pack, but not regular search, not there. You know, when you do a search, I want you guys to understand this. This may be like a mind-blowing, obvious thing that you didn't know about, but now you see it. Was it Ultimate Vocal Summit? Okay. Now notice here, images, videos, reviews, shopping, news, books. So there's so many different ways. There's a video program. Okay. There's so many, TikTok, right? So it's not just regular search results. A lot of people think the way it was a few years ago where there's just 10 blue links, but no, there's all this other stuff that's showing up that's here, right? And the thing to see is that because Google is threatened by all this AI stuff that's coming, they're going to start to show AI powered results.
Everything.
You
Mhm.
see this? Do you see this whole blue thing here? Right now, this is their experimental mode, but this is going to become the regular search results within a few months, where it's just going to show you all these cards.
Hmm.
And if you don't, now notice, these cards are not, I mean, they're referencing URLs or they're referencing TikToks or YouTubes or whatever, but if you don't push your information to be highly authoritative and helpful across multiple sources that corroborate what you're saying, who you are and what you do, you're not going to show up in these cards. And this AI, this generative AI is going to eventually take over the search results. Google's testing it. They've said this is what they're going to do. I believe them. It's
I
not
don't
going to
even
be these blue links down here.
I don't
Okay.
even have an Ultimate Voice Summit. I don't know what that, where that came from.
Somebody else created
Um,
one, as you can see, and here they
Yeah.
put it on their YouTube. So they
Yeah.
put it on their YouTube and they put it in all these other places too. And there's this TV show, and look, here's this TikTok, apparently, right?
Dennis,
Looks,
so I have my own personal domain
uh-huh.
that I have. I haven't created a website or anything, and I claim my YouTube like you suggested.
Good.
And same thing with I think I have Instagram also. I don't have a lot of stuff on there, but I
Yeah.
was actually planning to do some courses and some coaching programs, etc., etc. And I was just wondering, like, when I do that, is it better to like put them all under my own domain, or if I come up with a course, they should have their own separate URLs?
Depending on how big you are. So if you are already well known and you have a big email list and you have a lot of traffic and all that, then yes, create another domain for the products, you know, one product for each course. But if you're not, then I would start by being, you know, davidhanlon.com and putting everything under that one, right? If you're not already well known, put everything under your personal brand first, because people buy because of who you are. They don't buy because of the name of your thing or the logo. People waste so much time fretting about things that don't really matter. They don't increase trust or conversion.
So you're
Okay, I
saying
see we have some questions here.
I
me just
was
make sure
actually online, but I couldn't. I was waiting forever, so that's why I
Okay,
changed it.
okay. So let's just go through some of these questions here. So David M says, if I'm in 3 or 4 different business categories, will it create confusion? Yes, it will. Choose one main one. Xena just purchased XenaAwesome.com a few weeks ago. Very good. You can build it using the templates that we have. And we do implementation if you want help on that. It's how we pay our VAs and our people. Michael says, what if your name is John Smith? Then you need to be like Jonathan F. Smith or something like that. John Smith is too generic, but I don't think we have any Jonathan Smith. And I think Michael Fultinger, I think that should be able to, that sounds pretty unique. I mean, how many people have that last name? FOOTINGER. Nothing's showing up in the type ahead. So there's no entity for it. You see how there's no entity. It's just these other ones that are kind of similar. So you should be able to dominate for this. Oh, there's 4 of them, surprisingly. Is this you? Life quality? Someone else? No, who would have thought? That's all right. Actually, it's not that competitive. There's not that many searches. And is this the
So
same guy?
Dennis,
This
I
does
have
look
a
the same.
question real quick.
Yes.
Dennis, there's only
Network Solutions has my name. How do I switch it over to another, I don't know, device or whatever?
You
for-
bought so the registrar, so you bought the domain from Network Solutions? And you wanna
No,
host
I
it somewhere else.
originally bought, I think I originally bought it from GoDaddy long
Okay.
time ago. We're talking 20 some years ago.
Okay.
And I switched it over. I had a consultant that told me this is what you need to do. And I don't like Network Solutions. I just want to just move it. How do you what do you suggest?
So you want to move your registrar?
Yes.
Oh, very easy. You just come in here and say, I bought my domain on Network Solutions and I want to, well, the Zoom chat thing's in the way. I want to move to who you want to go to, GoDaddy?
Wherever, I don't care.
Do I do this? I don't think it matters where your registrar is.
Have you ever heard
What
of that cloud? What is it? There's a software cloud.
I don't
Something.
know what you're
Okay.
talking about, but moving domains is pretty easy.
Okay.
Moving the host or moving the registrar, I don't think it even matters. I would just keep it on Network Solutions unless you just have some beef against them.
I do.
Okay. Great. Yeah.
Dennis, just a quick question, and I gotta
Yeah.
jump because I have a meeting. But I was just wondering, so if I go hard at this to get my information on the Google panel, dashboard
Yeah.
panel thing,
Yeah.
how long will it take from now to get that done?
It's a good question.
Thank you.
Yeah. The answer is the same as how long does it take to rank #1 on such and such keyword? So it depends on how competitive it is. Because search by definition is a competition. Because if there's no one else ranking on your name, then it's easy. You can have it next week, right? But generally, as long as you don't have a celebrity name or as long as you're not John Smith, then usually 2 or 3 months to be able to get the initial stub of a knowledge panel, which is like the one for Mark Lack, where there is a knowledge panel. It's just not a full knowledge panel, right? But then if you want to get this will take 6 to 12 months. And it's not just a matter of the time, if you produce the content in the way that we're talking about with Dan, high authority expert video content that gets processed in the way we talked about here, host on other sites that have high authority, not just your site, but it has to be on other sites that are ideally DR50 or higher. So domain rating, there's Ahrefs, free authority checker. You can do this for free. Okay. Check the authority. So let's go to my site. One of my sites, freeebooks.net. This site that I have, oh, it's moved up 1 point. I'm a DR75 now, and I have 8.5 million backlinks. So I'm in the top like 0.00001% of sites. This is basically a major media site, 75. So if there are articles promoting your book on my ebook site, then that probably will help you. And if you're on other sites, like another one I'm control, Influencive, which Mark and I are both on. Influencive is what, like a 74, I think? 77. Okay. So there's another site. And so how does this work? Well, let's see. If I do Influencive and you see an article that was written by me, you see here written by Dennis Yu, I'm the author, and here's an article, right? And if I click on my author bio, you can see there's all these articles that I've written, right? On a DR77 site. So this is no different than when you search, Dennis Yu Dan, name your LA Times. You're in LA. So let's just do LA Times, right? So there's me quoted in the LA Times or mentioning LA Times, right? So these are all things that are high. Well, just go to LA Times. Let's see. LA Times is probably like 80 or something. What is it? LA 92. Wow. I didn't think it was that high, but it is. So when you're quoted on high profile sites, it doesn't have to be like LA Times, but it has to be like reasonably powerful. It can't just be some random blog, right? That sends the authority signal. So just because you claimed your socials, just because you have your personal brand website, just because you have a YouTube channel and you've got all these other things, doesn't mean you're going to have a knowledge panel. Because if we look at the links to Elton John, see, here's Elton John. Let's go look at his site. His site's a 73 because he has 115,000 links. Let's see where these links are coming from.
Wow.
70, look at this. He's got a DR76 link from a festival he's at. He's got a Wikipedia link, 93. Wow. Look at these Wikipedia links. That's super powerful. Wikipedia. You can't beat that. Anyone who's got this amount of Wikipedia, like you can't beat them. The game is over.
But Elton John's glad he signed on with you for your $1 a day program.
Elton John doesn't need $1 a day. I mean, he could, $1 a day is amplifying what you have. You can always get more. But look, I'll just show you an example. So if we go to blitzmetrics.com,
Dennis.
I know it's not fair to show mine.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
If we could spare some time for the questions.
Well, I'm going to show one thing here, and then you can feel free to interrupt. So you can see here on one of my sites here, I've got 250,000 links, but it's not that I have 250,000 links. This is like SEO 101. It's that I have links from high authority sites. So I'm one of the most persuasive advertisers ever, and it's on WordStream, which is a DR90. And my site, I'm linking between my sites. So my ebook site, I have a DR75 link coming in, right? And this page alone has got 200,000 visitors that come per month. And TimeCamp, so I'm a reference customer here because I use TimeCamp, right? Where we use this software, so they're linking to us as a great case study. I love to be case studies from high profile sites because they all link to us, right? Social Media Examiner. So if you do social media marketing, then you know that Social Media Examiner is the #1 place to get information. And here's an article I wrote on how do you create a Facebook public figure page, DR87, right? So you see my links, all these links that are coming to me, well, my ebook site. Oh, NFDA. So I'm the keynote speaker at the National Funeral Directors Association.
Really?
That's a 79. Yeah, and in 2 weeks from now, I'm their closing keynote. And they're paying me a lot of money, so I'm not going to say no to that. Here, Client Boost. This is an agency, so I was on their podcast, right? DR76. So I have thousands of these high profile, like they're 60 plus links, and they all point to me, and they all corroborate this. So the reason I have a knowledge panel is because I have lots and lots of high authority sources on topic for what I want to rank for, so that you can see here, like, look at Dennis Yu. This is my personal brand site. And before we were looking at the agency site. So let's look at these links that are coming into DennisYu.com, and you'll see the same kinds of things. I'm being linked to from Keep, right? DR83. This page gets a ton of traffic. This page alone ranks on 400 keywords. Why? I wrote a whole post explaining how much money should you spend on Facebook ads? How do I set a budget? And it's a great article. So all these other people have linked to it, right? So what did I do? I literally, I wrote an article on how do you spam on Facebook. It was one of the most popular articles ever in internet marketing a few years ago. Actually, it was 2009, so 14 years ago. I wrote this article 14 years ago, and today it is driving me a ton of SEO power. Do you see this? So this article has been one of the key things that has told Google that I'm very good at Facebook ads. And how does that show up? So let's say, what would Dennis Yu say to a coach of high net worth parents who want to help their kids get into top colleges? And so it knows who Dennis Yu is. And then I could say, like, how would they use Facebook? Like whatever. You can see, like, it shows all the stuff here, right? So in the same way that if I Google something and it triggers a knowledge panel, If I ask ChatGPT and it can give a full-fledged answer, then it means I'm feeding the database. Everything we're talking about today is about how do we feed our expertise, our relationships in the structured way so Google can see it. That means putting it, this is actually pretty good. I mean, Dan, you don't even need to talk to me. Just freaking talk to ChatGPT. It'll give you a better answer than I can. It knows my material better than I do. Right? Yeah. It's Dan Euland's birthday on September 1st. He lives
How did you remember that?
in LA and runs Elite Student Coach, the consultancy I mentioned above. I'm Dennis Yu. What kind of thoughtful gift can I give him? His wife is it Kelli?
Yeah, Kelli.
Maroney. Why not wide wife? Okay. So it probably knows who. Oh, Kelly Maroney's notable. Yeah. Okay. Tech Gadgets, pretty good. Off to run a special workshop for his clients. That's actually a pretty good idea. Personalized video. Oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, that's $1 1 minute video, $1 a day. Okay. All right. We can get away. Okay. We can get away. Sounds good. Okay. What could Kelly Maroney say that would touch his heart? So how is it that I can use the AI to do this? It's because it knows who Kelly Maroney is, right? Because it knows who I am. So I'll just say, just for fun, I'll have it stop generating. I'll say, who is Kelly Maroney?
No idea.
Isn't that cool? That's Dan Euland's wife. Dan literally is married to a movie star. Look, right? It's pretty good. Is this accurate, Dan? Yeah. It's accurate, of course.
No, it didn't mention Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Yeah, that was her. That was another. She's a cult horror and science fiction movie, but she's been in just tons and tons and tons of stuff.
Yeah.
And she loves Dennis and Will.
Wow.
Cindy. So, okay. So didn't list everything, right?
Right.
Okay. So let's just go full circle and then we'll take some questions. Why did I end? This is a sort of like a test your knowledge comprehension thing. Why am I showing ChatGPT? Why am I asking questions of ChatGPT? What am I trying to demonstrate? Dan or David Hanlon or anybody?
Because
how to appeal to an audience.
Because what?
Well, if I can interrupt just for a second, if
Yeah.
we were go through the steps, Dennis, and by the
Yeah.
way, how was your last marathon result?
Hey, I finished. It was 6 hours and change, but it was at 10,000 feet in Aspen 3 weeks
Oh,
ago.
no.
And I was not prepared. I did zero training for it, so I walked it.
10,000 feet. Did you have to wear an oxygen mask?
No, but I brought my oxygen water, which is not cheating.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to step one, if I could, Dennis, for a minute.
Yeah.
So the first thing we want to do is register as many domain names as
No,
we
no,
can.
register one. You don't need to go register 50 domain. Register one name. I'd register davidhanlon.com. If the .com is taken, do
It's
a
taken.
.org, .me, what, you don't need this is not about get a ton of domains. You just need one for your personal brand, and you're going to point everything into that hub. All your socials, your articles. You're going to have one URL, which is
Okay.
in the world of search engines, this is called the canonical. The canonical, that's like the source of truth. It is the place. So that's why I have DennisU.com. So people will search Blitz Metrics. They'll search dollar a day. They'll search Content Factory. They'll search like, how do you run Facebook ads? And those are all great things that I'm known for. But when I write an article and they link to my bio, or when I'm on someone's podcast and they link to me, they link to that one URL. I want there to be no confusion in Google's mind that this one, not blitzmetrics.com/about/DennisYu, not twitter.com/DennisYu, not this other one, but I want this one thing to be the central hub of when we think of DennisYu, they all point into this one, not 5 different domains, one.
One. Okay.
Okay.
Now, the second thing is to get a YouTube channel and a podcast, even if we don't do anything, right?
Yes.
And that will all show up on the knowledge panel or
Maybe.
accumulate to produce a knowledge panel.
Just because you have a footprint. So imagine we're all trying to build our personal brands.
Right.
And have you ever been to Dubai? They have this thing called the Burj, this crazy tallest building in the world, right?
Okay.
So to build a building that tall, you have to lay a huge foundation.
Oh.
So we are laying the foundation by claiming our website, personal brand website, company website, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Crunchbase, all these other ones. We're laying all the foundation, and then structurally on top of it, we're building all this content, all the books, podcasts, interviews, videos, all that kind of stuff is on top of that foundation.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So is there anywhere to get a step-by-step of building not only the foundation, but what you want to put on top of? Where can we find that? If I can.
So
and I'm done.
You can Google
Oh, go ahead.
Content Factory DennisYu, and you can watch hundreds of hours of videos and step-by-step guides and whatever. You can ask ChatGPT the same question and say, I'm David Hanlon. I want you to be DennisYu, and I'm going to ask you questions about the Content Factory as I build my personal brand. And I want you to guide me to what steps I need to take and tell me step by step what I need to do. Because there's thousands of things I could do. But for me, what do you think, based on your understanding of DennisYu, what do you think I should do next? Right. And it'll give you answers even better than what I can tell you. Yeah. And I
Hi,
won't be
Dennis.
offended. Yeah.
Yeah, so just to give an answer for your questions, why you're putting ChatGPT and questioning ChatGPT of all those questions before. The only reason is because there are lots of content out there on a Google for you. So ChatGPT is scanning them and answering them as you, because you already have so much content across. But if I put in ChatGPT, like write down the answer of this question in Shabistan, nothing will appear, because nothing of Shabistan is there out there for Google to, scan it and combine it together and rewrite those content.
Right. So I'm testing the strength and accuracy of my personal brand by asking ChatGPT. And if ChatGPT doesn't give the answer that I want, it's my fault, because it means I didn't organize my content properly. If I search for my name, or if I want to be known for Facebook advertising or for holistic health, cancer, or whatever it is, and I don't see the result that I want, it's not Google's fault. It's because I didn't feed enough high authority signals and show enough topical knowledge across enough sources to demonstrate that I do deserve to be number one.
So now I have 2 questions. One is, okay, this panel, the personal brand panel on your name is important. But when anybody is searching on a Google, they are not searching for Shabista Khan as a coach. They might be searching for weight loss or let's say a personal branding coach. So, so what is the significance? What one should focus first? One should focus first of, having enough content as a personal brand or as, let's say, business coach or whatever domain they are teaching in, because nobody is coming and searching for Shabista or searching for David Hudson. They are searching for the services we are providing rather than our name. And then maybe the second step they are going is like, okay, Shabista Khan is a coach. Now how good she is. And then then they might search for the name, and then the authority things comes up. So this is my first question. The second question
All
is
right, that's
like,
you're,
okay,
it's going to take you 5 minutes to ask your question. Why don't we answer that first question? Because that's a good question.
okay, sorry, I'm taking too
Okay,
long.
let me
but-
answer your first question. So people are not searching for Shabastan Khan yet because they don't know who Shabastan is. And yes, people might search. So think about the thing, each of us that we do here, right? Some kind of coaching, some kind of consulting. People are going to search, like for Dan Ulan, imagine people are going to search for how to get into Harvard, right? Something silly like that, right? But Dan, do we want to rank for how to get into Harvard?
No.
No, well, why not?
That's not, I mean, there are millions of people because there's a gajillion other people going for the same question.
Exactly. So then how do you stand out, which is really, so I imagine all these questions are really around the real, like being able to ask the right questions, actually more important than giving you the answer, because you can ask ChatGPT for the answer. Here's the correct question. How do I stand out among many people that apparently do the same thing? Right? That's the question you're really asking. Because I can answer the question you asked, which I'm not trying to avoid your question, but I'm trying to answer it in the right way. Here's the answer. Your personal brand is the sum total of the relationships and experience that you have demonstrated. And people buy from you because they trust other people that are like them, who have had similar problems and have been helped because of the solution that you offer. So Dan Ulan, I mean, how many random moms, if you approached a random mom in the mall, let's say she was shopping at Nordstrom, so it's maybe higher income, what's the probability that they would have a kid who is of high school age or whatnot, and they would pay $100,000? They don't know who you are. They pay $100,000 on the spot. You know, they've never met you to buy your coaching program.
Zero.
So therefore you should spam every mom at Nordstrom, right?
Yeah, I mean, a million monkeys and a million typewriters, right? But
Yeah, then that's
no.
what people do with internet marketing. They think, oh, I'll just have to produce. That's the economics of spam. The economics of spam is because I have such a low hit rate and because there's so many other competitors out there, I'm going to play the lottery game millions of times over and over again to try to get a winner. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, right? What you do, this is the correct answer. I'm rephrasing your question. The correct answer is listen to me. You're asking the wrong question. So you're going down the wrong path. Listen to me. You highlight your specific examples of students that you have helped. Talk about your clients, uplift them, demonstrate what they did step by step. Talk about their success, not about how amazing you are. Uplift them. No, but I want to sell more coaching services. I should get testimonials and get them to talk about how good I am, right? No. Elevate them, make them look good. In the case of Dan, right, he's got these kids that he's helping. He's built great relationships with them. That rapport shows through. Other parents can see that rapport, that kind of care, that level of just, what's the word I'm trying to say?
People will
like this
see
empathy.
you as transparent.
Yeah. And then when you uplift other people and even give them an award, or you congratulate them, or you send them a gift, they remember you. They talk about you. What you really want is your clients to love you so much because you did a great job and you took care of them. They talk about you. And here's the thing that has nothing. Authentic. This has nothing to do with the internet or digital marketing or social media. Listen to this. When you take good care of your customers and you help them achieve the result, right? And you equip them to make it easy for them to talk well about you. So having them on a podcast or whatever makes it very easy because Dan Ulan already, interviewed them. All they had to do is show up to a 30-minute Zoom. You make them look good. What is that mom going to do when she's, her son, or she's elevated, you're uplifting her? Like, this is what this successful mom did, right? To be able to help her kid achieve this result and get on the right path and go to a good school and, build connections and learn how to speak and coach and all these things that are beyond just getting into the, the acceptance letter. They're going to tell all the other moms.
Yep.
You don't need to do any marketing. Your clients do your marketing for you.
Working by referral.
Yeah, that's what we're doing here. This has nothing to do with the internet or social media or SEO or Google's algorithms or anything like that. What we're trying to do today is collect those necessary ingredients. Remember stage 1 of the 4-stage content factory? We're trying to get those assets and then process them. So yes, you need to have a domain, you need to claim all these different things and register your thing. Yeah, yes, you need to have all that, but that's mechanical. That's secondary to having the ingredients. If you start with happy clients, that's like starting with a really good piece of meat or something, and you could probably suck at cooking, it'll still turn out good. You know, a great piece of A5 Wagyu, right? Delicious. Versus you take some horrible, rotten chicken poop. You could have Gordon Ramsay cook it and it'll still taste like chicken poop.
Hey,
You know?
Dennis, can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
What I recommend is contacting your former clients and having them do a testimonial.
Not a testimonial. The whole point is not, no. Dan
No?
Gilman, why is a testimonial bad?
Because testimonials are about you. They're not about you celebrating your client.
Yeah,
When
that's
you-
true. Yep. I'm
Can-
sorry. You're
No,
absolutely
no, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry.
No, it's okay.
For the last month, I've been interviewing and celebrating my mentees, the kids with whom I work, and I'm about to start doing that with their parents as well. And when I start, I specifically tell my kids, the kids with whom I work, don't talk about me. Like, I'm not going to forbid you, but this is all about your successes. Your
No, you're
successes in creating that equine therapy program or a
Mhm.
painting program or something about this, because it's
But-
all about them. And I mean, this is the thing, because we are memory making creatures, right? So when Dennis's team, when Will is busy slicing and dicing these things up, what are the moms seeing? They're seeing, I want my kid to be like that. I didn't set out to create a category of one for me. I don't know any other way to do it than the way that I'm doing it.
You're doing it great.
Right? I didn't look at all the other college counselors out there and go, they're doing this, so I'm going to do this. I just don't know any other way to do it. Right?
Mhm.
And so interviewing them, first of all, I love doing it. And second of all, this is aspirational, right? With millions of kids applying to college every year, this is the way to be different, because this is showing how their kids are different, right? And so, right? So you're elevating other people, elevates you.
Absolutely, but it could also be a little reminder for them to think about you, to refer people that they know.
Right, but it's more, I guess that's not the, I'm not saying that that's bad,
No,
but that's not
I
the
hear you.
intention going in. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a real estate agent, so former, and that's just, I guess I got to get in a different mindset.
Yep. It's an abundance mindset.
Yeah.
So when Dan is out there elevating these moms and these students and their successes, that shows all the potential clients that he's not desperate trying to set up cold calls and put flyers in everyone's mailbox and, shamelessly just trying to get more leads and get people on, like a salesperson, right? You know how like salespeople are, like you don't respect the salespeople.
That's why I
'cause they hate
said
you.
working by referral. I didn't have to do any of that.
Right.
you know.
But the other part of referral is great. We get a lot of referrals, but referral puts the burden on the client to do it for you. Now, if you elevate the client like Dan's doing,
Well, of
and
course
all,
I do.
listen to this,
Yes.
because you said this like twice now. There's one key thing I want you to get. I want
Okay.
everyone to get this. This is a common mistake, especially among people who do mainly personal selling, like
Mhm.
real estate agents, right?
Right.
When you elevate somebody else and you take all the friction off of them, they don't have to do anything. They just have to show up to a Zoom call, and then we do all the work and we make them look good. And then we boost it for $1 a day. Guess what? YouTube, Google, TikTok, they recognize who that person is. They've recognized, do you think like Google and Facebook don't know who the friends of whoever it is in that video, that mom, you think they don't know who that is, right? They will automatically show it based on that. Because, the Facebook news feed is a great example of the algorithm personalizing to what it thinks is going to fit us based on who our friends are. We're letting the algorithm do the work for us. But if we don't feed the algorithm the signal of the people that we want to work with. So if Dan started interviewing random people, who were not high net worth moms from Singapore and Hong Kong and the Middle East and whatnot, then there would be no clear signal. But when there's a clear signal of these high net worth families and how they behave and the kinds of, Indian moms will attract other Indian moms. I know that's how it works, right? You need whatever you put out there. You've heard this whole like karma thing. Whatever you put out there, you get more of. There's different ways of saying that. That's why Dan is interviewing these other, because he says, I want more clients like this. If you interview clients that are nightmare clients, you're going to get more nightmare clients.
Yeah, I
What a
know.
surprise.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Whatever you, so if you don't want more of one particular thing, stop talking about it. Right? Because you're going to
Can I have my
manifest it,
second
whatever you want to
question?
call it.
I just want to, I remember the video you showed us of the chiropractor with the Muslim community.
Yeah.
And you showed examples of how you don't do testimonials, how you uplift people.
Yeah.
And that's when what you're saying right now, that's when that finally clicked for me, is when you showed that video. So I just wanted to bring up that video because
Yeah.
that was an epiphany for me. So you know what video I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know. So what Zena's talking about, there's a chiropractor in Minneapolis, and who do we know? I mean, chiropractors, you don't know unless you're a chiropractor. Like, what's the difference between one chiropractor and another chiropractor, right? They crack your back, they do the spinal exam. But this guy, because he made friends with the leader of it's not called a synagogue, the mosque, right? The imam, who's like the pastor basically of the mosque. And he's taking care of this guy. And even late at night, when someone gets injured or someone's, in a bad medical situation, this chiropractor has helped him out. And the imam has learned to trust in this one guy. And he's built a friendship over the years, even though this chiropractor is not Muslim. He's as white looking as they come, right? But because the imam is what we call a lighthouse. All of us should have a lighthouse. A lighthouse is the ideal client representative. It's people. So these are the people we want as ideal clients. Okay. Yes, you can talk to them directly. That's what direct selling is. But the people you want as clients, who do they respect? So Dan, for example, has relationships, not just with the high net worth moms, but the leaders of those groups. So when you build relationships with those folks, like this chiropractor built with the imam of that whole Muslim community, his entire business is driven off of those relationships. And it's not just referrals. It's $1 a day. It's patients that talk to each other. It's the fact that he's there, donating to they have all sorts of like events at the church and this kind of thing. Like, he's a part of their community, and it's taken him years to build those relationships. And I assume he's a great chiropractor, but it's because and it's not because he ranks on chiropractor Minneapolis. Yes, people are searching on his name, but how are they finding his name? Because they heard about him from someone else. They heard that he was at the food drive or whatever. They heard that he was there when so-and-so got in a car accident, right? That's what we're doing. Is you've heard Mark Lack say, know, like, trust, this whole thing. That's what we're doing here. We're amplifying word of mouth. We're amplifying reputation. What we're doing here is core to human nature. It's not some weird technical thing.
Can I interject here, because this is quite interesting to me. I did 6 months of a high ticket offer working with sound healers, and that's kind of what I do and what I love to do. And those are people I like to be in the room with. But I realized that those people don't have the money that I wanted to be earning, and I actually realized that I needed to target the people above them. So now I'm looking at creating a certification program and going the level above.
Yeah. Smart.
And targeting them. So I'm kind of now, I've got 2 audiences, and I'm wondering how I brand that, because one minute I'm like, oh, this is the message I say. And then it's like, no, because I'm doing this other program. And no, I say this message to these people because these are the facilitators and these are the healers. So yeah.
Start with high ticket first. Always start with the people that pay the most. Start with high ticket first.
Yeah.
Start with people that pay the most. So Dan, for example, if he wanted to screw things up, which he wouldn't, he would say, you know what, I've got training, as a college counselor for anybody, and this is for anything, and I'm going to put out a free course. And I mean, that seems like a good idea, but then it's sending the wrong signal, because it's for anybody. And of course, every parent cares about their kid. Who's to say like high net worth parents care more or whatever, just because they can spend more money? But if he sends the clear signal, and when I say send the signal, I mean that's to the universe, that's to Google, that's to Facebook, that he has these amazing examples, then everyone else will follow from there. So even if you've been serving low tier, if you aspire to talk to, and by the way, it's always better to serve high ticket, just bottom line, just people will pay you 50 grand versus someone who's going to complain about $500 and just, you know,
Yeah.
be a nightmare client. I mean, just,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we want to help everybody, but
Been there, done that. No
let's
more. Like,
let's start with the people that pay 50 grand. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
just better. They just treat you better. I mean, just for many reasons. Okay. Start
Thank
with
you.
them. That sends a signal. That's aspirational to all the other people to then consume the free training. Nike is a clear example. You know how Nike launched on a shoestring budget? They didn't have any money. You know, Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman were out of Phil Knight's trunk selling shoes, and Adidas was the big player back then. Their big breakthrough was they had Michael Jordan. And prior to getting Michael Jordan or be able to build up to that point, they went into inner city neighborhoods and gave shoes out to basically the gang leaders, because they knew if the gang leaders were wearing Nike, then all the other members would get Nike. And so the original influencer campaign arguably could have been Michael Jordan, because, you know, they made a shoe out of him, and then the rest is history, and the guy's worth $3.5 billion and all that kind of stuff. But the same is true. It's a lighthouse. Now, there's your Nike. There you go. So who is your lighthouse? That's a real question. Think about it. Do you have one? Do you have someone who is a well-known client? Ideally, they're a client, but they could be someone who's you're friends with, but ideally they're a client because you can demonstrate their journey about how they went from A to B through your program, right? And then you just elevate them and talk about how amazing they are. And you never have to say anything about yourself because they will talk about you. And that's all it takes. So everything we're talking about here with SEO, ranking on your name, you know, even if you rank #1 on your name, that could be a great thing. Even if you triggered a full knowledge panel and did all the things we talked about here today, that itself isn't worth anything if nobody searches on your name. But the catch-22 is that if you do the things that we talk about and you build a personal brand and people are talking about you, they're going to be searching for your name. When there is search volume on your name, it will trigger a knowledge panel. So the catch-22 is that there's no way you can trigger a knowledge panel unless there's traffic against your name. Does that make sense? So it's not that we're going for a knowledge panel. It's that what we're trying to do, we're trying to generate enough positive word of mouth about us that there are searches for Dan Ulan. And when people search for Dan Ulan, they see all the stuff about Dan Ulan. So you see it's a chicken and egg. Being well-known and reputable, actually, because we have a lighthouse relationship, we have clients that talk about us because we elevate them, is also the same thing as reputation management, SEO, PR, social media. Those are two sides of the same coin. You follow me?
How
You
do
need
we
to get one,
point?
you get the other. What?
How do we point all our?
You link to
different
them. So from your
branches?
profiles on social media, from your websites and whatnot, you link to that main URL, which is the home page of your personal brand website. But if you don't have the content, there's nothing to link to, right?
And on
If
and
Dan
on the
Ulan-
main. Sorry.
The homepage of your website, of your personal brand website, is what you link to for your name. So people
And on that-
understand the entity of Jen Wilson.
Yeah, so and on that page, because I'd sort of started doing this ages ago, and I thought, well, that's really silly. I just designed a one-page website where it was like there was 4 different. I'd seen someone else do it. There was 4 different. Click here, and you go to this site. Click here, and you go to this site. Click here, and you go to that project.
Yes,
Click
to your top
here.
articles. Yes, to your social. So they link both ways. So all your top articles, all your socials, all link to that main website, your personal brand website. Then that personal brand website links back out. You're linking into that website, and from that website, you're linking out to your top articles, your top videos, your YouTube, all this stuff. You see what I'm saying? It links both ways, in and out.
So it doesn't matter if we have a YouTube in our own name, because my YouTube is in my musician name, which is completely different.
Well, then you're sending a conflicting signal. You have to
Okay.
send a clear signal on your name, like literally that. If I'm David Hanlon, I'm David Hanlon. I can't be, you know, some other
So
name.
we can't have aliases. So how would I, if we've got already, you know, for example, I've got Facebook pages of my Twitter, not my Twitter, my Instagram and my YouTube are all under my
Choose
artist
the one name. What's the one name you want to be known for? You know, there was this guy Prince, and he changed his thing to a symbol, and now we don't know how to say his name, and he's dead. But you know, choose the one thing that what's the thing? Like if You have a longer name, like just that's the one thing. That's your name, right? And everything should be tied to that name, and everything has to be that same signal. If you use different product names and you go by an alias and whatever, like you're just going to confuse Google and confuse people too, most importantly.
Yeah, I myself, I've been confused for ages.
Yeah.
Too
But
many
real simple.
websites,
Um,
different projects, 5
unless
different
you're doing,
websites.
unless you're doing at least $10 million a year, focus on one product and do it really well.
Hmm.
Don't
That's really
think like, well,
helpful.
if I launch 10 products, I'm going to make 10 times more money. That's a fool's errand.
Yeah, it's really, really helpful.
Yeah.
So
Right.
to get because I already have YouTube with my musician's name, do I open a new YouTube with my own name? So
Change the
all I
name
have
on that one. Unless, I mean, if you want to continue with that one, if it's, decide whether that YouTube is even topically relevant to what you want to be known for.
Well, it's yeah, it's this, you know, my music is, you know, my life, but I run a business as well, so I kind of.
But you as a personal brand, as a person, you have a business, you have a family, you have other things that are tied to it. You as a
Yeah.
person, right? So it's okay. Understand your business is a separate object, which we call an entity. You as a person, that's an entity. The people that you're involved with, those are all different entities, right? Just decide which of them intersect into you. Decide like who you want, like, you know, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It's that kind of thing. What do you want to tell Google, meaning telling social media and the universe that this is who you are, right? That's a strategy question.
So how does that fit in with the business name? So for example, Mark came up with Shorten the Gap, you know,
Yeah.
like
So Shorten the Gap's a company, Mark Lack's a person,
yeah,
and there's other people that are associated with Shorten the Gap. You know, I teach for Shorten the Gap. You guys are members of this, but those are separate objects, right? Different nouns.
yeah, because until now I've been using my company name as the kind of hub.
Yeah, so that's a common mistake, is to confuse your company with you as a person. You are not your company. Even if you're Dan Yulin and you're a
Very cool.
solopreneur, yeah, Dan Yulin is not Elite Student Coach is a business. Dan Yulin is a person.
Yeah, I'm so glad I jumped on this call. So helpful.
Seriously, no, that is like, Jen, that is, I can't tell you how many times I see entrepreneurs make this mistake.
Yeah.
Because when you start out, you are the company, right? As far as you know,
Yeah.
like without you, there's nothing, right?
Yeah.
But you have to start thinking about you are not your business.
Yeah.
And as you grow and as you get other people, eventually you don't want to have to be involved in the day-to-day. You're going to have an operations person. You're going to have other people doing different roles within your company. Eventually it could be passive where you're just sort of a figurehead and not having to deal with the clients. You have other coaches that are certified in your program. You know, you have all these other kinds of things. Like, I'm not Mark Lack, but certainly me teaching inside this mastermind is helping Mark Lack's brand. And me being associated. Now, why would I do that? Because I like being associated with Mark Lack. All the people that are associated with Dan Yulin, yeah, they probably like Elite Student Coach. They probably like the new snazzy logo he has. But the main thing is they identify with who Dan Yulin is as a person and his values and the relationships. That's why. It's not because he has the best results in getting kids in the top colleges. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Maybe other people make insane promises like 100% guaranteed you get into Harvard or whatever. But they're making these decisions because of the nuance, the rapport that he's able to develop. And that comes through when he's interacting with other people. The rapport never comes through in solo video. I got to run in a couple minutes, but I'm happy to take a couple more questions. We can chat a little bit more.
Yeah, I just had a quick question, Dennis. So I think we are talking about, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we are talking about inbound traffic, right? At the end of the day, inbound, you know, leads, inbound, all of that, right? Good stuff, right? Because we're putting out a lot of content out there. People are seeing our stuff on TikTok, Instagram, the whole gamut. But there is this whole another side of this whole thing, right? Where you create a course or you create a program or whatever, and you're running ads, you're going after people, you're going on the defense, right? You're putting all that stuff out there. So I was just wondering, like, what is the difference between those two? Like, on one side, I'm thinking like inbound is more organic and it's more in the long
Use
run.
$1 a day to drive inbound, organic. Okay. So there's 3 stages in the funnel: awareness, consideration, conversion. Most people that are thinking about ads, I think, which is the mentality you're coming in, they think that ads are trying to drive people straight into a phone call and close them and get them to sign up and fill out a form. No, that's the most obvious, like, brute force pickup line, kind of not very elegant. That's not the way to sell high ticket either. If you're selling high ticket, have you ever heard the phrase, people don't like to be sold to, but they like to buy? So what does that mean? It means that this idea of inbound, you have this false dichotomy of inbound and outbound. When you put your knowledge out there, when you elevate other people like we're talking about, and then you run dollar a day, which is a thing that I'm very well known for, you run dollar a day elevating them, that is actually what drives the inbound. So we're boosting posts where we're sharing knowledge and uplifting other people. It's not an advertisement, but we are spending money on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google, and all that kind of stuff. And that drives leads in. I have done hundreds of webinars explaining how that's worked. That's how I've gotten the biggest billion-dollar brands to approach me. I have never approached a brand saying, hey, we should hop on a discovery call for 15 minutes, book a time on my calendar. Like, I don't do that. Every client I've ever had in my career has been from them approaching me. Nike, Starbucks, all these guys, right? Because I'm doing what we talked about today. I'm sharing expertise. I'm elevating other people. What do you think happens when I talk about, Ashley Furniture and how the head of digital marketing of Ashley Furniture used to spend millions of dollars on digital ads and got a bunch of likes and comments and whatnot, and they had no idea what the ROI was, to be able to drive a 28 ROAS. Every dollar they spent was driving $28 in the point of sale of actual furniture being sold across their stores. And I put him on stage at Social Media Examiner, Michael Malaro, right? And I elevated him and wrote articles about how amazing he was and the techniques that we implemented together. Never once saying how amazing I am. What do you think that did to other people who run digital at chains that have hundreds of locations? They start reaching out. That's how we got med spas and fast food places and attorneys, because they see like what we've done for other folks that have thousands of locations. Like we did the same thing for Allstate Insurance, right? If we demonstrate that we can do that for 21,000 Allstate insurance agents, don't you think we could do it for the new skin folks that are doing multi-level marketing, right? To help them improve their personal brand. So what I did was I was doing all the stuff we talked about here today. And then stage 4, the content factory, is I'm boosting those posts so they get seen. I'm not relying upon organic referral. That puts all the weight and the burden on the client. And that's just too much friction. It's too difficult. They're busy. Yes, they'll talk about you. But when you elevate them and then you take all the friction off, stage 4, the content factory, you're promoting. That's how it works. That's the thing to understand. That's like every stage in the content factory is 10 times more powerful. Just because you produce the content isn't worth a thing. Then it gets processed. It's like refining, gold or whatever. It gets 10 times more powerful at each stage, right? Then it gets posted to YouTube, Facebook, whatever. And that may or may not get traffic, right? Maybe your YouTube has 4 subscribers. That no one's going to see it. But then you boost it. Every stage gets 10 times more powerful, but you have to start with the necessary ingredients. If you don't start with the right ingredients, if you keep multiplying a 0 by 10, by 10, by 10, you still have 0, right? So I want to remove this false dichotomy of there's advertising just to drive sales and it's outbound. And then there's inbound that seems like it's just organic and you're hoping they come to you. Like, no. You can get any type of client to come to you inbound. It sounds counterintuitive. Like, how is that, Dan? How do we get, high net worth parents to come to us? Well, we interview other high net worth parents and run ads so they keep seeing it. And then they want to reach out. Like, who's this Dan Ewan guy? I see him everywhere. Man, I need to talk to him.
Well, the other thing, and you haven't mentioned it yet, or maybe you did in passing when I stepped away, but you and Will, and by extension me, are testing each message, micro testing each message to see which one is resonating.
Yeah.
So as each piece is getting sort of posted along the way in the content factory, these thinly sliced messages are being tested, so we know which ones are resonating with my target audiences in Dubai and in Singapore and here in the United States. So then we'll know which ones to put money behind, right? Which horses to bet on. That's a really important piece of the puzzle.
Yep. Cool. All right, let's take one last question. Who's got a great question that is good that is helpful and creates value for everyone?
I do. I do.
Just speak up.
Okay. Wait, I had them written down so that it would be precise. First of all, I had an order and you said you should only do one thing. So I wanted you to pick what you thought would be the one thing, but also my one question that I thought might be helpful for everybody is that, I went to get my name, my URL. Should I sign up for 2 years or 5 years?
Doesn't matter.
What would you do?
Doesn't matter.
Okay. But you have a protection so that it'll continually renew, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have 3 names and that is part of the confusing part. And I wanted to know what order. You say we should only do one thing, but I had several projects that I wanted to do.
Choose the best one.
Well, that's my question.
Prioritize. That's the whole thing of focus, right? Entrepreneurship's all about focus. Unless you have, once you get one business over $10 million a year, don't work on the second business.
Okay, what a catalog that would encompass everything, that would have affiliates, and it's the cream of the crop solutions, whatever I think is the cream. And
You're not listening to me, Kara. I apologize. Focus on one thing you do really well. Don't focus on lots of, don't do affiliates and courses and coaching and software. Like,
no, I don't do coaching.
Do one thing. Get it to $10 million, then move to a second business.
Well, there's sex and there's health. I do both. And
All
they're
right,
both in my backyard for 40 years.
Like you're in the classic, Carol, you're in the classic entrepreneur trap where you're trying to do 20 different things.
Okay. I just want to know the order. And then the one thing I want to mention, and I will talk in the Facebook group, is that building you're talking about, the Burj Khalifa. On Passive has the top 2 floors, and they do the light show on it. And so I will, and they will have a social media. They have it now, not censored. And I will share that because you can add that to your list of, because there are over 2 million people in it now. So I will add that and people can use that in their background.
Okay, cool. Very cool.
And it's not network marketing. I'm not marketing.
Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you. I hope, it's so nice to spend time together in person, to be able to get away from our phones and be able to think about deeper issues strategically, because all of us are focusing sometimes so much in the weeds that we forget about the bigger picture. And it's easy to go down a random rabbit hole that just, you find out later after you put in all this time. So I find it's strategically, it's better to get these things, that get the direction. Direction's more important than speed. A lot of people are going 100 miles per hour in the wrong direction. So I appreciate you guys. And I want you to engage in the Facebook group. Let me know, have some accountability here. What have you done? Did you get your domain name? Did you make 1-minute videos about what you've learned? Are you interviewing other people that are authoritative and have perceived expertise in the area that you want to be? Maybe you have a lighthouse. You can be like Dan Euland and interview your clients. If you're far enough along that you've got some great clients, you now know that to focus on them and their success and get them on a Zoom call and call that your podcast. You just literally just call it your podcast, put it on YouTube, all this, repurpose it according to the 4 stages of the Content Factory. This is building a foundation of marketing momentum that will continue to build. So you don't have to keep launching from scratch and start from zero over and over, starting from zero. It is super, super painful to start from zero. When you build momentum because of your reputation and relationship, all these things that we're talking about will result in you ranking on your name, not because you're trying to rank on your name, but because by the act of elevating other people, putting that content on high authority sites, sharing helpful content on how you achieved certain kinds of results, sends a signal to the humans and to the engines that this is what you do on the one thing that you do really well. And as you do that, you will become well known for this, and the referrals will increase. You can then reinvest as you get more high ticket clients, reinvest back in the dollar a day, hire more Will Troops and other sorts of people. And now the machine is building, because every piece of content you find is a winner. Like Dan was talking about with the testing, guess what? You just let it keep running. You play what we call the greatest hits, right? As a musician, when you launch your band and you do your first album and it has whatever 8 songs, those are your greatest hits because those are the only songs that you have, right? But once you've been doing it for a while, you start to build the greatest hits and you're known for those. And Axl Rose makes millions in royalties off of Appetite for Destruction from 1987. He's got had
Wow.
nothing since then, but he's still making millions, right? He doesn't have to do anything because his machine is still running for him. And that's what I want you guys to all experience. I'm still making money on $1 a day. I came up with that 17 years ago. I have passive ownership in some of these other companies, and I'm getting money from something I did a long time ago. And let me tell you, the money that you get from stuff that you didn't have to do anything for continually is worth way more than having to earn that $1 every single time with closing a client and a new project. And like, I'm just, it's like better. Like I love passive income things, royalties basically. Okay. So I hope you guys see that the steps we're talking about today are how you build ongoing power instead of like chasing random stuff and starting from zero over and over again. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right. You guys are amazing. I'm going to go to trampoline park. We'll see you
Can-
guys in a few weeks.